Welcome to a wild tale of entitlement and trespassing. A peaceful lakeside home with a private pool becomes a battleground when Lisa, a self-proclaimed HOA tyrant, storms in, claiming dominion over what's not hers. She'll scale fences, wield bolt cutters, and face the law, all for a pool she has no right to. If it hooks you, could you drop me 19 likes? Just one like would feel like a big, cozy hug from you all, and I'd be so thankful. Straight from my heart. Thank you. Ready? Let's jump in. The early morning sun filtered through the gnarled branches of the ancient oak tree, casting a golden shimmer across the glassy surface of Elmwood Lake. I stood at my kitchen window, cradling a steaming mug of coffee, gazing out at the serene beauty of my little slice of paradise. My modest home hugged the lake's edge, a perfect retreat I'd claimed 3 years ago. In the summer, I'd hop the low wooden fence in my backyard and dive into the lake's refreshing embrace, feeling the water wash away every worry. But now, in the tender grip of early spring, the lake was a frigid beast, its icy chill enough to make even the boldest swimmer recoil. To counter that, 2 years back, I'd splurged on a small heated pool for the yard. Nothing extravagant, just a 15-foot circle of sturdy plastic with a humming heater tucked beneath. But to me, it was a private oasis. On warm mornings like this, I'd float in its gentle warmth, listening to the birds trill overhead, letting the world fade away. That morning, I just finished a few leisurely laps, my skin still tingling from the cozy heat, when the phone inside shrilled like an impatient alarm. I wiped my hands on a fluffy white towel, leaving the pool uncovered as I stepped indoors, fully intending to slip back out in minutes. It was my brother, Tom, his voice crackling with urgency. "Hey, I need you to pull up the Elmwood proposal file from your computer. Can you do it now?" I sighed, setting my coffee on the counter, and shuffled to my cramped workspace. The old desktop wheezed to life, its fan buzzing like a tired bee. As it loaded, I glanced out the window, catching the soft dance of leaves in the breeze beyond my line of sight. A flawless day, I mused, already picturing myself back in the pool. 30 minutes slipped by as I hunted down Tom's file and fired it off to him. Task done, I slid on my flip-flops, eager to reclaim my morning bliss. But as I pushed open the back door, my heart stuttered and I froze mid-step. There, sprawled across my outdoor recliner, was a blonde woman with a tangle of wild hair spilling over her shoulders. My straw hat lay crumpled in the grass beside her, my sunscreen bottle tipped over, its white contents oozing into a sticky puddle. Worse yet, in my pool, a boy, maybe 8 years old, was splashing wildly, clutching my duck-shaped flow-tie from last summer. His high-pitched giggles sliced through the air, mingling with the slap of water against the pool's edge, a chaotic symphony of intrusion. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my mind racing to catch up with the surreal scene. This was my backyard, my private property, yet these strangers lounged and splashed like they'd been handed the keys. I sucked in a deep breath, forcing my legs to move, and stepped closer. "Excuse me," I said, my voice tight despite my effort to stay polite. "What are you doing on my property?" The woman, Lisa, I'd later learn, glanced up, her pale blue eyes blinking with an exaggerated innocence that set my teeth on edge. She wore a baggy t-shirt with a faded logo and pink flip-flops parked neatly beside the chair. "Oh, this is your pool?" she asked, her tone laced with a syrupy surprise that felt rehearsed. I nodded, my hands balling into fists in my pockets. "Yes, this is my house. Why are you here?" She flashed a smug little smile, tilting her head toward the boy in the pool. "I'm Lisa, HOA overseer for this neighborhood," she said, as if it explained everything. "I manage all the pools around here, and my son wanted to swim. The lake's too cold, right, sweetie?" Her voice softened to a coo as she glanced at him. The kid didn't respond, too busy slapping the water, sending droplets sparkling in the sunlight like tiny defiance. Anger flared in my chest. I'm a patient guy, but this, her bold claim over my pool under some delusional HOA authority, was too much. "This isn't HOA property," I said, my voice dropping to a cold edge. "It's mine, privately owned. You've got no jurisdiction here, and you're trespassing. Her smile faltered, her eyes narrowing into slits. Don't be so rude, she snapped, planting a hand on her hip. I'm just enforcing community standards. This is for the neighborhood. The boy splashed on, oblivious to the tension crackling between us. I stared at her, then at the pool, my disbelief swelling into a quiet fury. This woman, Lisa, had just ignited a war over my own backyard, and I had no idea how far she'd push it. The air in my backyard grew heavy, crackling with an unspoken standoff as Lisa's smug declaration lingered like a bad smell. Her chin tilted upward, her blue eyes glinting with self-righteous certainty as she claimed HOA authority over my private pool. The boy's relentless splashing punctuated her words, a jarring rhythm that mocked the sanctity of my space. Sunlight bounced off the pool's surface, each ripple shimmering like a tiny insult rippling outward. I clenched my jaw, feeling the frayed edges of my patience unraveling fast under the weight of her audacity. Look, I said, stepping closer to the pool's edge, my shadow stretching across the water like a dark warning. This isn't HOA property. It's my pool, my land. You don't get to barge in here and use it just because the lake's cold. My voice held steady, but inside, a fire was kindling, stoked by the sheer absurdity of her acting like my backyard was some community playground she ruled over. Lisa huffed dramatically, rising from my recliner with a creak of the frame, her wild blonde hair swaying as she moved. Up close, I could see the faint peel of sunburn on her nose, the cheap hoop earrings dangling as she jabbed a finger toward me. I'm the HOA overseer, she snapped, her voice climbing with indignation. I decide what's accessible in this neighborhood. We're just utilizing what's here. What's the big deal? Utilizing? I shot back, incredulous, my arms crossing over my chest. I glanced at the kid again, his small hands dunking my duck floatie under the water, oblivious to the brewing storm. The pool pom-pommed softly, a reminder of the haven she'd hijacked. You didn't ask. You trespassed. This isn't under your imaginary HOA control. Get out. My words were sharp, slicing through her nonsense like a blade. Lisa's face twisted into a scowl, her cheeks flushing a splotchy red that clashed with her faded t-shirt. You're so selfish, she spat, throwing her arms wide as if pleading to an unseen jury. I'm enforcing community rights here. What kind of person says no to a kid enjoying himself? The guilt trip was so blatant it might have been comical if I weren't so furious. My pulse thudded in my temples, her words shortening the fuse I'd been trying to keep long. I turned to the boy, cutting through her drivel. Hey, buddy, I called, my tone firm but measured. You need to get out of the pool now. He froze mid-splash, his round face peeking over the floatie, water dripping from his soggy bangs. For a fleeting moment, I thought he might comply, until Lisa erupted. How dare you? She shrieked, lunging forward so fast I stumbled back a step. She planted herself between me and the pool, her finger inches from my nose, her breath tinged with cheap floral perfume and sunscreen. You don't speak to my son like that. He has rights under my oversight. He deserves to be here. What if he gets hypothermia climbing out now? Do you want that? Do you want my kid to suffer because of you? I blinked, thrown by the lunacy of her argument. Hypothermia? It was a balmy 65 degrees outside, the sun beaming down, and my pool was a toasty 80. The kid would be fine, better than fine, but Lisa's theatrics were a performance for the ages. He's not getting hypothermia, I said, forcing calm into my voice despite the urge to shout. It's warm out, and that water's heated. But he doesn't belong here. This is my property, not your HOA kingdom. You both need to leave, or I'm calling the cops. Her eyes widened, then narrowed into slits, a predator sizing me up. Oh, go ahead, she barked, her laugh sharp and bitter. Call them. I'll just say you threatened us, harassed my son under my jurisdiction. She crossed her arms, triumphant, as the kid paddled to the edge, finally sensing the shift. I stared, my mind racing. This wasn't just delusion. It was a calculated escalation. My restraint shattered. You're unbelievable, I muttered, yanking my phone from my pocket. But before I could dial, she thrust a hand up, palm out, silencing me like I was her subordinate. Then, in a syrupy tone that made my skin crawl, she turned to her son. "It's okay, sweetie. This man doesn't get how HOA works. He's not a team player. I'll raise you better." My jaw dropped. She'd spun me into the bad guy in her warped little narrative. "If I'm not a team player," I fired back, my voice low and cutting, "then you're not a neighbor. You're a trespasser with delusions. Get your kid and your fake authority off my land." The words landed like a slap, and I felt a surge of satisfaction as they hit home. Lisa froze, her mouth opening and closing, speechless for once. She yanked her son from the pool, water pouring off him in glistening sheets, grabbed her stuff, kicked my chair over, and stormed off my lawn, her kid in tow. Curses flew over her shoulder, her middle finger stabbing the air as she went. I stood there, a faint smile tugging at my lips, masking the volcano of anger inside. The clash had flared and burned out in minutes, but as I watched her retreat, I knew this self-proclaimed HOA tyrant wasn't done with me yet. Not by a long shot. The backyard fell into an eerie stillness as Lisa and her dripping son disappeared around the corner of my house, their footsteps swallowed by the soft hum of the afternoon breeze. The recliner lay toppled in the grass like a wounded beast, its metal frame catching the sunlight in accusatory glints. My straw hat rested forlornly nearby, blades of grass clinging to its brim, while the pool's surface rippled gently, the only lingering sign of the boys' reckless splashing. I stood frozen, my phone still gripped tightly in my hand, its screen dark and unused. The urge to call the cops had fizzled with her dramatic exit, but the fire in my chest burned on, fueled by a mix of disbelief and a raw sense of violation. Lisa's self-proclaimed HOA authority over my pool. It was lunacy, and yet it gnawed at me deeper than I wanted to admit. I bent down to right the chair, the cold metal biting into my palms as I hauled it upright. The sunscreen had soaked into the soil, leaving a greasy stain, a petty scar on my once pristine sanctuary. I snatched up my hat, brushing it clean, and sank into the recliner with a heavy sigh. Beyond the fence, Elmwood Lake shimmered in the distance, its icy calm a cruel contrast to the chaos that had just erupted. How could a day so perfect unravel so fast? I replayed Lisa's words in my head, her smug assertion of community rights, her wild threats to twist the narrative, that saccharine tone as she painted me the villain. It was absurd, but the sting of her intrusion lingered like a splinter under my skin. A breeze swept through, carrying the sharp scent of pine from the trees lining the lake. I closed my eyes, willing the tension to seep away, but the image of her jabbing finger and her son's splashing looped relentlessly in my mind. 3 years I'd lived here without a single trespasser. Not even a stray cat had breached my fence. And now this? A self-appointed HOA tyrant storming in like she owned the place? I shook my head, muttering, "People are insane." But even as the words left my lips, a flicker of unease took root. What if she came back? What if her delusions escalated? I pictured her spinning lies to the cops if her kid slipped and hurt himself, claiming it was my fault for not bowing to her imaginary rule. The thought twisted my stomach into knots. I couldn't let that happen. I marched back inside, the screen door slamming shut with a sharp bang that echoed through the house. My laptop sat on the kitchen table, still open from Tom's earlier call. I flipped it on, fingers flying across the keys as I searched for security cameras, something to guard my peace. The screen filled with options. Wireless models with night vision, motion sensors, live feed straight to my phone. Cost didn't matter. I needed protection. I clicked add to cart on a set of 4, imagining them stationed around my property like silent watchmen, capturing every move. As the order processed, I leaned back, rubbing my temples. The adrenaline was ebbing, leaving a dull ache in its wake. I needed to vent, to make sense of this madness. I grabbed my phone and dialed Tom again. He answered on the second ring, his voice chipper. "Hey, File Hero. What's up now?" I paced the kitchen, spilling the whole saga. Lisa's invasion under a fake HOA banner, the kid in my pool, the screaming match, her parting curses. Tom listened, punctuating my rant with incredulous snorts, "And you're kidding." S. When I finished, he let out a low whistle. "Man, that's wild. She really thinks she's HOA boss and threatened you with the cops." "Yeah," I said, leaning against the counter. "And she'd do it too, just to twist it. Cameras are going up tomorrow. Never thought I'd need them out here." Tom chuckled, though it had an edge. "Smart. People like that don't back off easy. You sure she's gone?" I hesitated, glancing out the window. The yard was still, the pool's surface smoothing into a glassy calm. "Hope so," I muttered, "but I've got a bad feeling." "Keep me posted," he said. "And lock your gate, dummy." We hung up, his words ringing in my ears. Lock the gate, such a simple oversight. I rummaged through the junk drawer, found a sturdy padlock, and headed outside. The latch clicked shut with a satisfying snap. Not impenetrable, but a start. The sun dipped low, streaking the sky with orange and pink. I settled back into the recliner, trying to reclaim the day, but the quiet felt different now. Less serene, more vigilant. Every rustle of leaves made me tense. Every shadow a potential threat. Lisa was gone, but her chaos had left a crack in my Haven's armor. As dusk crept in, wrapping the yard in soft shadows, I couldn't shake the certainty that this self-proclaimed HOA queen wasn't finished with me. Her delusions ran deep, and I braced myself for the next round. The next morning broke with a crisp clarity, the kind of day that whispered promises of lazy pool floats or quiet walks along Elmwood Lake. But as I stepped onto the back porch, coffee in hand, the serenity rang hollow, a fragile veneer over the unease Lisa had left behind. The new padlock gleamed on the gate, a small silver token of defiance, but my eyes kept flicking to the yard's edges, past the shed's weathered wood, along the fence's uneven slats, toward the oak tree's sprawling shadow. Her self-proclaimed HOA invasion had tainted my Haven, and no amount of sunshine could wash it away. I sipped my coffee, its bitterness mirroring the restless churn in my gut. By midday, a delivery truck growled up my gravel driveway, dropping off the security cameras I'd ordered in a late-night panic. 4 sleek black devices, compact as baseballs, nestled in their boxes like silent protectors. I spent the afternoon installing them, sweat trickling down my forehead as I balanced on a wobbly ladder to fix one above the back door. Another went by the pool, its lens glinting like a hawk's eye. The third I secured to the oak tree, angled at the gate, and the last I tucked behind the birdhouse near the shed. Wired and synced to my phone, they buzzed to life, beaming live feeds of every corner of my property. Standing in the kitchen, I swiped through the app, a strange cocktail of relief and paranoia swirling in my chest. Let Lisa try her HOA nonsense again, I thought. I'd be ready. Days slipped by without a ripple. The cameras caught squirrels scampering across the grass, a raccoon nosing the trash cans under moonlight, the occasional breeze teasing the leaves. My routine crept back. Morning coffee on the porch, evening swims in the pool's warm embrace. The lake's gentle lapping a soothing backdrop. I almost convinced myself Lisa was a fluke, a bizarre hiccup in my peaceful life. Almost. Then, on the 5th day, the sky shifted. Late afternoon brought a bruised lavender hue as storm clouds rolled in from the west, thick and ominous. I lounged by the pool, a book in hand, when my phone jolted me with a buzz. Motion detected. Back gate. My heart lurched. I tapped the alert, and the oak tree camera's grainy feed filled the screen. There she was, Lisa, blonde hair whipping in the wind, her familiar t-shirt flapping, standing at my fence with her son and a new face. A taller woman with dark hair and a tight bun, gesturing sharply. I bolted upright, the book tumbling into the grass. The kid tugged Lisa's arm, a red backpack slung over his shoulder, while the dark-haired woman hovered behind, her movements tense. Switching to the pool camera, I zoomed in. Lisa jabbed a finger toward my house, her son pointing at the water with a pout. She rattled the gate's padlock, her posture radiating defiance. What the hell? I muttered, my pulse racing. The other woman, in a navy blazer that screamed professional, stepped closer, her hand brushing the lock. Lisa shoved past, shaking the gate like she could command it open. It held, but seeing her back, bold as ever, lit a fresh ember of fury in me. I grabbed my phone and stormed outside, the air thick with the metallic tang of coming rain. "Get away from my gate," I shouted, my voice slicing through the wind as I rounded the shed. Lisa's head snapped up, her eyes locking onto mine through the slats. The kid shrank back, clutching his backpack, while the dark-haired woman froze, her hand dropping. Up close, she looked mid-40s, sharp-featured, maybe a neighbor roped into Lisa's madness. "Oh, it's you," Lisa sneered, her voice dripping venom. "We're not even inside yet, so relax. As HOA overseer, I'm here for our floatai. My son left it last time." I stared, dumbfounded. "Your floatai?" I shot back. "That's mine. He used it without permission. This is an HOA turf. It's my land. You're trespassing again." The dark-haired woman cut in, her tone clipped. "Sir, let's not make this a scene. Give us the floatai, and we'll leave. No drama." Lisa bristled, glaring at me. "No, he doesn't get to deny community property. I run things here." Thunder rumbled, a low growl matching the storm brewing inside me. 10 seconds, I said, holding up my phone, or I call the cops. Cameras are rolling. The kid whimpered, tugging Lisa's sleeve, but she shook him off, her face a mask of righteous fury. "You wouldn't dare," she spat, but the other woman grabbed her arm. "Lisa, let's go," she hissed, pulling the boy too. Lisa shot me a venomous look, her curses swallowed by the wind as they retreated down the path. Rain began to speckle my shirt as I watched them vanish. The cameras blinked steadily, capturing it all. I had proof now. Lisa's HOA delusion was no match for reality, but something told me she wouldn't stop. Her obsession with control ran deeper than I'd feared, and as the storm closed in, I braced for her next move. Rain hammered the roof that night, a relentless roar that drowned out the usual murmurs of Elmwood Lake. I sat at the kitchen table, the laptop's glow casting stark shadows across my face as I replayed the footage from earlier. Lisa rattled my gate, her blonde hair wild in the storm, her voice muted but her HOA-fueled fury clear as day. The dark-haired woman dragged her away as lightning flared, and I'd saved it all. Time-stamped, backed up, a digital fortress against her next move. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within me, restless, charged, ready to erupt. Sleep dodged me like a shadow. Every creak of the house, every gust rattling the windows, sent my hand twitching toward my phone, expecting another alert. Dawn arrived with a gentle drizzle, the yard a soggy sprawl of puddles and trampled grass. I trudged out to check the cameras, boots sinking into mud. The pool sat still, the duck floatai bobbing mockingly, but the gate's padlock held firm. No Lisa. Yet, I wasn't fool enough to think her delusions had drowned in the rain. Her type thrived on chaos. She'd be back, and I'd be damned if she caught me unprepared. Mid-morning, I drove into town, the footage burned onto a USB in my pocket. Elmwood was small. Everyone knew each other's business, and the police station squatted between the diner and hardware store, a brick box of order. Officer Daniels, a gruff man with a gray mustache and steely eyes, nodded as I slid the USB across his desk. "What's this?" he asked, leaning back. "Trespassing," I said, voice steady. "Twice now. She calls herself Lisa, claims she's HOA overseer with rights to my pool. Total nonsense. It's private property." I walked him through it. Her first invasion, the gate clash, her threats. Daniels watched, his frown deepening. When it ended, he whistled low. "She's a handful. Got more on her." "Just that," I said. "Blonde, loud, kid about 8, had a friend last time, dark hair, professional type." He scribbled notes. "We'll look into her. Keep those cameras up, call if she shows again." I left lighter, resolve hardening. Back home, I added a second padlock to the gate, sinking into a wary rhythm. Weeks passed. Cameras caught only wildlife and the mailman. I dare to hope Lisa's HOA fantasy had fizzled. Then, a crisp Saturday morning shattered that. My phone buzzed as I flipped pancakes. Motion detected. Back gate. I dropped the spatula, heart pounding, and opened the app. Lisa scaled my fence with bolt cutters gleaming, her son scrambling after her, diving into the pool with a triumphant grin. The dark-haired woman lingered at the gate, arms crossed, uneasy but complicit. Rage surged, blinding and hot. I dialed 911, snatching a baseball bat from the closet. Not to swing, just to grip a primal anchor. They're breaking in now, I told the dispatcher, voice trembling with fury. About video, hurry. I stormed outside, bat on my shoulder, and bellowed, "Get the hell off my property." Lisa spun, cutters flashing, eyes wild. "This is HOA domain," she screamed as her son splashed. "You can't stop us. I've got rights." The woman shouted, "Lisa, stop!" But it was too late. Sirens wailed, growing loud, close. 2 patrol cars screeched into my driveway, lights blazing. Daniel stepped out, face grim, hand on his holster. "Step away from the pool," he ordered. "You're under arrest, trespassing, vandalism." Lisa's cutters clattered to the ground, her mouth gaping as cuffs snapped on, her rights red over her protests. An officer hauled the wailing boy from the water, the dark-haired woman stammering, "I tried to stop her." Daniels glanced at me. "We've got this." They shoved Lisa into the cruiser, her curses muffled by the slamming door. Her son and friend left in the second car, the woman avoiding my gaze. Silence fell, heavy with victory. Later, Daniels called. Lisa had a record. Harassment, petty theft, no HOA ties, just lies. She faced charges, maybe jail. That night, I swam under a star-strewn sky, the pool's warmth cradling me, cameras blinking their vigil. The lake gleamed beyond, wild and free, but this was mine. Lisa's chaos ended in handcuffs, and I'd fought for my peace. It felt damn good.